is up, YouTube? This is the 82 and 0 podcast. So today's topic, we're going to look at who would win in a best of 7 games between the 1996 Chicago Bulls and the 1986 Boston Celtics. Now, this is something I've been battling with for a while because these are I'm not saying they are the 2 greatest, but these are 2 of the greatest teams of all time. For anyone who doesn't know the histories of these teams, the 1986 Chicago Bulls, Celtics, went 67-15 that year. They had the number 1 best defensive rating in the league, the 3rd best offensive rating. They had a great coach in Casey Jones. And this is one of the biggest teams of all time. What I mean by that is their front court was very tall. So in the front court, you had a 7'1" Robert Parrish, a 7-foot Bill Walton, 6'10" Kevin McHale, and a 6'9" Larry Bird. And then also in the backcourt, you had Dennis Johnson, he was a good rebounding point guard. And you had good shooters like Danny Ainge, Rick Carlisle, Scott Wedman. But the 96 Chicago Bulls, this team has a better record. They went 72-10. They were the 1st best offense in the league and the 1st best defense. This team was more backcourt oriented. Their stars were Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, John Sally. So, this is something I get asked a lot, who would win in this matchup? And there's a couple of factors I can see it going either way. And I think sometimes people, I'm not taking anything away from the 96 Bulls team, but I think sometimes people get misled by that record. Because you got to understand that the 96 Bulls, when they were playing, there were 29 teams, right? And a lot of these teams in the Eastern Conference were expansion teams. And I'm not saying that they're not a good team. So before you comment any hate, let me explain. A lot of their wins were based on beating the crap out of these new expansion teams. Versus when Boston played in 86, there was just 23 teams, and the league was a little more competitive. So their 67 wins, I think, is more earned. But all that being said, I think the Bulls had a much better offensive system. They had a much better coach in Phil Jackson. But it's hard to argue against a team that wins on the boards. Yes, Dennis Rodman is probably the greatest rebounder of all time. But who do the 96 Bulls have that's going to rebound when Rodman's not on the court? He can't play a full 48 minutes in every game of a series, And their starting center, Bill Wennington and Luke Longley. You really think they could match up with Robert Parrish and Bill Walton, Kevin McHale? It's not happening. The 96 Bulls, they did have John Sally, who was a good post defender, but he was past his prime at this point, and I don't see him holding his own either. And here's how I could see it going down. Jordan and Bird are going to score no matter what. These are just 2 of the most offensively gifted players of all time. And you can't really stop Jordan. And you can't, put your best defender, your best perimeter defender on Jordan, okay? Who's that going to be on the Celtics? They'd probably put Dennis Johnson on Jordan. And Dennis Johnson was a great defender, but Jordan's still going to drop 30 on them. And the Bulls have more of a perimeter defensive edge because Scottie Pippen is probably the greatest perimeter defender of all time. So, yes, he's not going to stop Larry Bird. That's not what I'm saying. But he's going to make Bird work for his points. And if you look at their earlier matchups, because when Pippen played Bird, Bird torched him. But this was Pippen at his absolute peak defensively. So I don't see Bird getting it as easy as he did earlier in his career. Here's how I see it going down, though. A lot of this is going to depend on, like I said, the front court of the Celtics and the back court of the Bulls. That's the clash. And a lot of it, too, is coming down to the depth and the team chemistry. And the Celtics team, you can really say that they had a deep team. They had a lot of good guys on the bench. Bill Walton, Rick Carlisle, Scott Wedman. And the Bulls, they were deep too. Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr. The Celtics had 4 guys average over 15 points per game. And the Bulls, they had Jordan lead the pack with 30 points per game. And their second leading scorer was Scottie Pippen, obviously. Pippen put up 19. And Kukoc had 13. So there was really 3 scorers on this team above 10 points per game. But like I said about the Celtics, you had Bird with 25, Kevin McHale with 21, Parrish with 16, Dennis Johnson with 15, Danny Ainge with 10. So although I've said the Bulls had a better offensive system, like Phil Jackson was obviously a better coach, and his triangle offense is probably no doubtably more complex. But given the number of threats on this Celtics team, it's going to be really hard for the Bulls to match that. And another thing you have to look at, like I said, is the coaching. Is Casey Jones going to make the necessary adjustments to stop Jordan? They had a lot of megastars on their team, so did the Bulls, obviously. But who's winning this coaching battle? Obviously, Phil. And here's what I'd say. The Celtics have a little advantage in that they're younger. Let's say you teleport the 2 teams to face each other. Like you transport them from 86 and transport them from 96. Bird was right at his prime, at his absolute powers, right? Jordan, yeah, he was still great, but he wasn't the 91 Jordan. Pippen was at his peak. Rodman was past his peak, but still great. So either way it goes, I'm going to say it's going to go to Game 7 regardless. I don't see it being anything less than 7. And like I said, the Bulls win it based on their perimeter scoring, their perimeter defense. And the Celtics would win it based on their post play. And my prediction is the Celtics win in 7. I think Rodman's going to get tired when he can't play 48 minutes a game. When he goes to the bench, it's going to be really hard because think how many schemes you can do with the Celtics front line. When you got all these Hall of Fame bigs in there, you could even put Larry Bird at the center if you really wanted to for stretches. And he played power forward for the majority of his early career. So I think Chicago would get manhandled in the front. And I just think McHale, Parrish, and Walton would be too much for Rodman to take on all by himself. And the only way I could see the Bulls winning this is just by sheer Michael Jordan determination. He's got to average ridiculous points per game on good efficiency, because when you're dealing with a great rebounding team, every shot counts, because if you're not hitting your shots, they're getting all the rebounds. And the only way I can see the Bulls winning is if Jordan and Kukoc and Pippen can all step up offensively and efficiently. And that's going to be really hard to do in a 7-game series consistently. I could see Jordan doing it, but Kukoc has to hit all of his shots too. Ron Harper's got to hit all of his shots. Pippen's got to hit all the shots, you know? They just don't have the frontline depth to beat the Celtics. So my prediction is Celtics in 7. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks for watching.